my wife broke this down years ago and wrote a whole blog post on this where she kind of like goes through step by step on how that works. And there are so many intermediaries. I think there's a huge business opportunity in simplifying and modernizing the payment process, right? Like we have technology. So this technology is from 50, 60 years ago, right? And everything's just kind of been bolted onto the internet. So none of it makes sense. Complicated, slow, and expensive. And there is such a huge opportunity there. And I think, some of the work that, like, for example, Lightning Labs is doing with stablecoins on Lightning, that Liquid's doing with stablecoins on the Liquid network. And just like, there's such a huge opportunity. Lightspark's working on this. There's such a huge opportunity there because the payments industry is huge and it's, quite antiquated. So there's just such a huge opportunity there to simplify things and make it better for make it better for everybody, make it more economical. That, yeah, it's huge. There's no doubt about it. It's going to happen too. It's inevitable.
Hello, this is the Bitcoin Libertarian. Before starting today, I want to do a little bit of comment because we are Bitcoiners, and as Bitcoiners, we are always fighting for freedom. We are always fighting for the truth, and we don't disqualify people, but we always try to debate and to go to with the truth. And today happened something that shocked me, and was the killing of Charlie Kirk, an American. First of all, if you know me, if you follow me, you know that I sympathize more with President Trump, with President Milei in Argentina, and the right wing. I think most of the Bitcoiners are the right wing. So I feel so shocked by what happened. And I think that nobody in this world, nobody, if you are right and you are left, must be killed because of something that you think or you preach. So my condolences to the people from the family and friends of this guy. And also we need to understand that we need to move to a world, to a peaceful world, to a world with no killings, with a world with no violence. And this world is only possible if we fix the money. The world, the beautiful world that we want to go in needs to be with the money fixed, with some money. And Bitcoin is the way that we can reach this kind of world. So we fight for Bitcoin every day. We fight for freedom. I think that nobody left, right, or whatever needs to be killed or harmed because of their thoughts. So again, we must choose Bitcoin every day. We must preach Bitcoin every day to make the world a better place. So said this, I want to start with the podcast today. I'm the Bitcoin Libertarian. Our guest today is Erik Alvarez. He's the visionary director of Velas, a trailblazing software development firm that's been at the forefront of Bitcoin and Lightning Network integration, with a passion for Bitcoin commerce that spans building non-custodial payment tools, empowering business to accept BTC seamlessly, and championing real-world adoption stories like Stake and Shake, nationwide rollout, or sparse Bitcoin grocery payment. Today, we will talk about Bitcoin payments, the state of adoption, and how to make them easier for everyday use. Erik, welcome.
Hey, thank you very much. Very pleased to be here and to just, agree with you. So I would definitely not agree with 99% of the things that that this influencer says, but I 100% agree with you that nobody should be killed because of their beliefs. And the way to fix these problems is through debate and understanding, and not through violence. So,
and that's what Bitcoin do. Bitcoin brings peace. Bitcoin brings cooperation. And again, we are in the 21st century. Nobody must be killed for for political beliefs, for sexual beliefs, for race, or whatever. So let's move to the first question of our podcast. That is, Erik, how were you orange pilled?
Wow. Okay. Hey, this is thank you for that question. And this one's actually an easy answer. So I was orange pilled 100% by my wife and business partner, Hannah Rosenberg. And so she's a very, very early Bitcoin adopter. and had a long background in economics and alternative currencies. When I first met her, we were trying to write a book on digital gold currencies. So just to give you an idea, like the time frame there, and she fell in love with Bitcoin many years ago, like probably 12, 13 years ago, and just slowly worked on me. I have an engineering background, and project management, kind of like conservative. I don't take to new ideas very fast, you know. And she just worked on me year after year after year, and eventually I was like, wow, I got it. Like it's money for the internet. It's money's like sending an email, and you don't require the permission of anybody, and you don't require a bank account. It doesn't matter if you're in Africa, in Latin America, in Canada. It all works the same, and it's beautiful.
Yes, I think so. It's a good story to be orange pilled by your wife, because sometimes we have this issue, no, that probably one member of the couple is Bitcoiner and the other not. For example, I had the example of a guy from Singapore that he's a 100% Bitcoiner and he's trying to orange pill his wife. I think that he's on the process of orange pilling her, but yes, to be orange pilled by your loved one is amazing. So let me know for me and for all my listeners, because I've been doing my due diligence with your business, but I want to listen from your own mouth. What is Velas Commerce and what does Velas Commerce do?
Sure. Okay. All right. Thanks so much for the question. So what we do is Bitcoin and Lightning Network focused software development. So that means like mobile apps, websites, e-commerce sites, and also like custom fintech software. And so I probably, to make it more easy to understand, is a little bit of the origin story. Is we started when my wife, who was a web developer, wanted to like get more businesses accepting Bitcoin. So she's like, okay, I got the web development skills. I'll start a web development company that specializes in integrating Bitcoin payments, and that's how we grew. So we have like long e-commerce routes, like any e-commerce site that wants to accept Bitcoin payments. That's kind of like our bread and butter. But so that was over 10 years. Yeah, that was, I think, 12 years ago now. And, we've branched out in other types of software development too. Now we do, all types of websites, mobile apps, and like a lot of custom backend software too. Specifically, usually around Bitcoin and Lightning Network.
And how does it work? For example, because I am in my main business is I'm not a professional podcaster. I do digital marketing and e-commerce as well. So how do you integrate? For us, it's a pain in the back when accepting payments, especially from countries that are not tier one countries that have problems with the credit cards, or the payment processors block some kind of credit cards because they think that they are fraudulent. How do we integrate your product with an e-commerce site, for example?
Okay, great. So I love that we're going to start with an e-commerce site, because that question can be so broad depending on the type of business, right? Like if you have a consulting company like ours, the answer is a little bit different, you know? But but great for an e-commerce site. Um, so usually, and when I say usually, I'm gonna go with depending on the merchant's needs, right? Like, okay, let's say if you want to keep the Bitcoin, right? And you don't want to like instantly convert it or something like that. If you want to keep the Bitcoin, almost always this free open source software called BTC Pay Server is the answer for accepting Bitcoin on e-commerce sites. Now there are exceptions, especially depending on the finances of the business and and their level of like technical skills. You know, some things are easier to integrate than others. I think BTC Pay Server is the right answer in 99% of the cases. But if you have the type of business that needs to instantly and constantly convert that to fiat to keep the lights on, to pay the bills, then maybe you want to look at something more like an exchange, um, an exchange like Coinbase or something like that, or Coin Payments. But yeah, so it depends on the actual goal, but if the goal is to stay with Bitcoin, BTC Pay Server integrates with almost everything. Well, I would say it does integrate with everything, and yeah, it's a pretty cool way to go. Free open source software, um, been around
And
for a
you
long time.
So basically, what you do is you help the clients integrate BTC Pay Server to their website, or you build an in-house solution for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we'll integrate BTC Pay Server into websites, whether like it's, I don't know if you ever heard of WordPress, WooCommerce, Shopify, BigCommerce. There's also it's possible to do completely custom integrations too. Like I was just working last week on a project. We're working in so we're in San Juan de Puerto Rico, and we're working this year on getting more merchants to accept Bitcoin. So I'm really working on all types of flexible solutions. So it doesn't matter whether you run your own custom web app or anything like that; it could still be integrated. But for the major e-commerce platforms like WooCommerce, WordPress, um, BigCommerce, Shopify, there's like pre-made plugins, there's pre-made software, and it's just a matter of connecting all those pieces, and that is exactly what we do.
Yeah, that's for the people who don't know what is Shopify or these platforms. They are platforms where you can go and build your online store. By the way, we have our online store where we sell some products related to Bitcoin, and then you need to integrate the payment method. This is sometimes it's difficult because it's difficult to integrate the credit card is easy, the PayPal is easy, but then when you want to go for another kind of payment method like Bitcoin, you need to do some tricky stuff. And you build a plugin or you need to create a custom solution for that.
Yeah, it depends. So for WordPress, like if you have a WordPress WooCommerce site, or if you have a Shopify site or a BigCommerce site, there are plugins already made, and it's just a matter of configuring them and and properly deploying the BTC Pay server. So it sounds a little bit scary. I could understand that, but like it's absolutely achievable, and businesses from like very small businesses to say your online merch shop all the way up to like um enterprise grade e-commerce use this same software. So it's just a matter of finding the right mix.
Do you work with businesses that they are the business owners are already Bitcoiners, or you come and say, okay, I have this solution, you can do this, and you try to orange pill the business owner through showing them the Bitcoin technology?
That's a good question. So just me myself, I don't do any orange pilling. It's just not my thing. So we work with people who want to accept Bitcoin. We don't like convince people to do Bitcoin. Like I respect the people who do. I know that's a necessary thing, but it's just to divide things up. We like to work with the businesses that know they want to take Bitcoin, and they just have questions on how to do that.
Excellent. And are there any possible, because for example, I was trying to integrate to one of our websites the Coinbase because I wanted them to pay with credit card and I receive Bitcoin. But with Coinbase, it's just Bitcoin from Coinbase to another Coinbase. Is there any solution that the customer can pay with their credit card using fiat, and in my side, I receive Bitcoin or Lightning wallet payments?
I've been looking for something like that for a long time too. And the answer to your question is I don't know. It would be really cool. I looked into this hard about a year ago, trying to find something for another customer that wanted exactly this. Like they did not want to mess with credit cards. They just wanted to have somebody else do the credit. Like it's almost the opposite of the usual situation, right? Where somebody already has the credit card set up and they want the Bitcoin option. This was the opposite. They didn't want to set up anything with credit cards except let the customers pay with credit card and have them receive the Bitcoin. And honestly, I don't know. Like this this should be a thing that exchanges do. If you're willing to do the KYC and get the exchange accounts, and that's the first place I would look. If you
So
want no
if
KYC and just have somebody accept the credit cards and you get the Bitcoin, I'm not sure that exists.
because I don't know if you know the platform Bull Bitcoin. I don't know if
A
you
little
know
bit.
them. That you can is it works the opposite. You are Bitcoiner, you pay with Bitcoin, and the the merchant receives money fiat in their bank account. But I was wondering if there is any way to get paid with credit card, the customer pay with whatever they want, credit card or fiat or whatever, and the business owner receives payments in Bitcoin. Because one of the most painful thing that when you run an e-commerce business is the credit card payments, the payment processors that most of the time, especially if the credit cards are not from, I was telling, the tier one countries, are not from United States, UK, or Germany, or Australia. Most of them rejects the payment. For example, we have our app, and we put some payment walls to access to different things. That is just a small payment, like $1 per month. It's nothing. It's not. And we had a lot of people using this app from India. And we receive in our Stripe, in our payment processor, a lot of credit card transactions that are rejected because suspicious activity, because the card comes from India. And probably it's people that want to pay, and it's money that we cannot receive because this bullshit of the payment processor. So I said, what if we can create, there is any payment processor that can process the credit card and send me Bitcoin to my Lightning wallet? So probably if there are any, I'm giving a business idea here.
And it's an awesome one from when I looked into it, because I do recognize this need, right? And I think it's one of the strengths of Bitcoin really is that, these chargebacks and these rejected charges, like these hurt merchants badly. Yeah, we know, we see it every day. And that's one of the strengths of Bitcoin, that, if somebody pays you, it's your money. It's not going through an intermediary that can reject it or um or send it back. Um, so yeah, I see the need. When I looked at it, this was also the main reason why I even found one business that did this in the past but had to stop, was due to the chargebacks. So they were getting hit constantly with chargebacks and losing money because they had to send money that they weren't able to successfully receive. So serious problem in business. And I agree, there's a business idea there. There's definitely a need.
Yeah, I think that there is something. I think that now in the world, even because it's something that we deal with that this every day, because we are now setting up an e-commerce operation in Argentina, and in Argentina there is a, a payment method that is called Mercado Pago. It's like a wallet. I think in all Latin America. I don't know. I'm sure you know it. And
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
and we were trying to process some payments that we were testing, and was a pain in the ass. So the payment were rejected, something like that. And I don't know what happened. And I was telling my friend, my business partner, that he's the other person behind the Bitcoin Libertarian. And I was saying, if someone come with a solution of sending money, processing money, even using shitcoin, even using Solana, I would use it, because at least Solana is a shitcoin, but it's better than using all these complex processors that are super difficult for selling. And do you think that there are more needs uh, on this business that can be improved? And what are these things that can be improved?
Definitely. So, okay, so like a traditional payment, right, is the most complicated. You would not believe how many people have their hands in a traditional payment. When I pay with a credit card, when I pay with my credit card, which is out of Puerto Rico, and I pay on your site, which is based out of, say, Argentina or Hong Kong, the it will go through at least five different intermediaries, at least. And like my wife broke this down years ago and wrote a whole blog post on this, where she kind of like goes through step by step on how that works. And there are so many intermediaries. I think there's a huge business opportunity in simplifying and modernizing the payment process, right? Like, we have technology. So this technology is from 50, 60 years ago, right? And everything's just kind of been bolted onto the internet. So none of it makes sense. It's complicated, slow, and expensive. And there is such a huge opportunity there. And I think, some of the work that, like, for example, Lightning Labs is doing with stable coins on Lightning, that Liquid's doing with stable coins on the Liquid network. And just like there's such a huge opportunity, Lightspark's working on this. There's such a huge opportunity there because the payments industry is huge and it's, quite antiquated. So there's just such a huge opportunity there to simplify things and make it better for make it better for everybody, make it more economical. That yeah, it's huge. There's no doubt about it. It's going to happen too. It's inevitable.
Yeah, I think that you nailed it when you said more economic, because for the merchant we got charged 3% each transaction by the Visa network or the fiat network. Plus, of course, if there are exchanges in the currency exchanges in the middle, you have another percent. Then the bank charge. So everything makes it more economic, and also it's important for these people in need. I always say the same when I talk about transferring money using Bitcoin or the Lightning Network or any other blockchain network. I live in Hong Kong. In Hong Kong, there is a huge community of people from the Philippines and Indonesia that come to Hong Kong to work as maids. So, and maids and nannies. And you see them every Sunday, that is their day off, queuing up in these money remittance places that to send the money to the relatives in Indonesia or the Philippines. And usually these places, they rip them off with the cost. So we can make all the ecosystem easier, faster, and cheaper for everyone. And for example, if a person from the Philippines, if I have to pay, I don't know, $20 in a bank transaction abroad, for me, I'm not gonna say it's nothing, but it doesn't hurt me too much. It's part of the game. But the person that is working here and needs to send money to the Philippines, probably 30, 50 US dollars of commission that they can save is one week of groceries. So in this country. So it's very important. And why do you think that we cannot improve this? Because we see improvements in everywhere. Why you cannot improve the payments, the remittance, and all the things?
All right. Hey, that is a great question. And let me just start by saying I 100% agree with you. So we've experienced this too. We have friends and family in Venezuela trying to send money there, especially a few years ago. Trying to send money there was just it's crazy. It's almost impossible. The same thing, one of our best and longest serving developers when now lives in the UK, but originally lived in Ghana in West Africa, and trying to send money that wasn't Bitcoin to West Africa is impossible. It's not Puerto Rico to Ghana, it's not a thing. Uh so so let me just echo the need, right? Trying to send money to Venezuela or West Africa is so prohibitively hard and expensive that it just makes no sense, right? And yeah, you have people who make very little money and really need that money, and paying, tons of money. Well, relatively speaking, like you said, we have a consulting business. If we have to pay a payment processing fee of 3%, okay, it hurts, but it doesn't.
Part of the game.
Part of doing business, right? Unfortunately, it doesn't have to be, but it is. So, but for for somebody in West Africa, or for somebody who's struggling in Venezuela, or this is the difference, can be the difference between eating or not eating, right? Okay, so now, so what's preventing us from doing this, from sending these people Bitcoin and them taking that Bitcoin and being able to convert it to Bolivares, or I don't know what currency they use in Ghana, because we only ever sent Bitcoin. But in my opinion, in our particular example for Venezuela, it was like a technological problem, right? We ended up actually doing this, but it was through a friend of the family who understood Bitcoin. We would send the Bitcoin to him. He would figure out everything for our friends and then just give them the Bolivares, right? And so in my opinion, there's on our side of the things that we can control, right? Because there's regulatory issues, there's political problems in the world, stuff that, well, you're the Bitcoin libertarian, this is more your area, right? But from the from the technology side, I think it's about making it easy for people, right? Like when we have to explain, like a Bitcoin address where it starts with BC1, blah, 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 blah. And you got to check every single letter and make sure. And then you got to wait for confirmations. And there's a lot of, you write down your seed phrase, there's a lot of like technical complications that somebody from, just your everyday person, it doesn't matter on the country, your everyday person isn't going to be comfortable with, right? They'll figure it out when there's a true need, right? And they'll figure out what makes sense for them. But from our side, it's about making the user experience friendly for people who aren't, going to spend 100 hours reading about how Bitcoin works.
Yes, of
That's my
course.
opinion. Yeah.
Yes, of
Because it's
course. And
possible. It's technologically possible. There's nothing stopping us.
I think that the only thing that is stopping us are regulations and all the business that is again ripping off people in the poor countries, because I'm sure that I can send you a bank transfer from Hong Kong to Puerto Rico. I think that Puerto Rico, I don't know how it works, but it's considered United States, like in a banking transaction.
We have our own banking system, but it's
Okay, okay.
close. It's close enough. Let's.
I never understood how Puerto Rico works, because I always thought that was a part of you, was like another state, like Florida from the United States. But then I remember when I was a kid and I watched the Basketball World Cup in Argentina in the 1990, and Puerto Rico was playing. And I said, how come Puerto Rico and United States are playing? So, well, no problem. But for me, it's not a problem to send money if you have an account in the United States, in Chicago, where are you from, or in Florida, or in New York. I can send you the money and you receive it almost immediately, like probably with 1 day of delay and with low cost. But if I want to send money to Argentina, even now, that's, by the way, that's why I discovered Bitcoin. I discovered Bitcoin back in 2011 because we need to send money from Argentina to outside and send and receive money from outside to Argentina. And at that time, it was impossible. We have a regime at that time that was not 100% like Venezuela, but was like probably 70% Venezuela.
Right.
But even though now we have a libertarian president, it's very difficult to send money into Argentina. So at that time, we used Bitcoin or we used PayPal, or for us, Bitcoin was another payment method. Now we use a lot of stable coins. When I have to send money to Argentina, or my friends need to send money to me, we use stable coins. So that's the magic. And do you think that what is going to be more important in the upcoming years? The Lightning Network or stable coins for sending and receiving payments?
Well, that's an awesome question, right? And I think there's no doubt that, so when we talk about Bitcoin, a lot of times we separate crypto, right? So I think stable coins are one of the few like real use cases outside of the hype for cryptocurrency, right? Aside from Bitcoin. So I think there's a huge global demand for US dollars, right? It's not perfect. It devalues. We all know that. But compared to something like the Bolivar in Venezuela, or the peso Argentina, or the peso from Argentina, then the US dollar looks very attractive, right? So stablecoins, I think 100% have a use. And whether stablecoins are going to be the future of payments or the Lightning Network, I actually don't think it's an either or question. I think stablecoins on the Lightning Network are going to be the future of payments, because the Lightning Network, compared to other payment networks that are popular for stablecoins, is super economical. That's the number one thing, right? When somebody's sending a payment, they want economy and reliability, right? So it's super economical, it's super fast and reliable, and and um and it's quite decentralized. Somebody's not going to turn off a database or hack some bridge server, and then everybody's stable coins are up in the gone, right? So yeah.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the stable coins, you rely on a company because, for example, Tether is a company, and if Paolo Arduino want to block your account, he will block your account or your coins the same, not your account, but your coins the same way that PayPal blocks your account. But in fact, there is one stable coin that is this almost decentralized, that is dollar on chain. Have you ever heard about dollar on chain?
I haven't. No, tell me.
Is with Rustock. He's doing with Rustock protocol. I had my friend. I always it's things that I'm promoting them, but no, I want to talk about this. I'm not receiving money from them because this is a good alternative, and it's like a kind of decentralized uh, dollar stable coin backed in Bitcoin. So, but that's what I want. I usually talk, but yeah, I think that Lightning is more for the Bitcoiners, for people, and of course, you need to spend Bitcoin. So, and for most of the Bitcoiners, spending Bitcoin is like we don't want to spend Bitcoin because you spend today, let's say you buy a beer with Bitcoin, and then 1 year after we'll say, this is the most expensive beer I paid in my life. But yeah, and do you think that governments are taking notice of that? Because in the past, you remember that of course stable coins and everything Bitcoin related was even banned or in a shady status. Now you see Tether together. I think that the other day there was a dinner that was organized by Donald and Melania Trump, and I think that Arduino was there, or at least he gathers with the government. Why do you think that now the United States government is pushing so hard into the stable coins and Tether specifically?
So I think that so I don't do too much politics, right? But this is just so don't take me as an expert here. But what I would say is that I think the USA realized that the dollar is slipping as a global reserve currency, right? It's not failing as a global reserve currency. It's just every year ebbing a little bit less and less, right? And the world's becoming a little bit more multi-centered when it comes to currencies, right? And the USA wants to reverse that. And I think they see stable coins is a means of reversing that because with the stable coin, um, you know, what people know, what people use and care about are dollars, right? It's dollar denominated, number one. And then number two, at least as far as I know, again, not being a finance person or a politics person, from what I know, these stable companies like Tether or USDC, US dollar coin, they buy a huge amount of USA treasuries to back their stable coins. So I think that's the main incentive. In I think you had an excellent point when you said like these stable coins are typically centralized, right? So I think that's another reason to think of a stable coin is a payment, right? And not as like a savings, right? So, you know, we're lucky to be in a situation where if the price of Bitcoin fluctuates, and it does, we're not struggling from day to day or month to month. But, for the amount of money that you can comfortably save, like I don't think a stable coin's a very great place. Like, okay, if you don't have an alternative, if it's the peso, the Argentine peso, or if it's the bolivar, then a stable coin might be great. But still, look at what happened with what is the name of this algorithmic stable coin from 4 or 5 years ago that
Luna.
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 Yeah, yeah. So
I remember because I lost 2,000 US dollars overnight with Luna. And that was the last shitcoin I bought.
yeah, man, ouch. I'm sorry. That's whip. So this is it's just a so real life proof of what you're saying. Like stable coins are centralized. They have problems. It it might be an awesome and 21st century way to send a payment, right? But it's well, at least for me, right? I don't give financial advice, but for me, this is not how I would be saving.
No, of course. Here we don't give financial advice. We talk a lot about a lot of things, but it's not financial advice. But yes, usually the good use of the stablecoins that I see now is again I have to pay, I have to send money to Argentina or to another country, and I want to avoid the banking processing and all the stuff. And I go with my Hong Kong dollars to the OTC exchange, I change to stablecoin, and immediately send the money to wherever in the world, and they receive the money like without even with less fee and instantaneously. And as you said, may, probably in some countries like Argentina, in Argentina, we learn since we are kids that we must save in US dollars. In fact, I'm 44. And since I'm born, I lived through, I think, 5 different currencies in Argentina. I lived with 2 hyperinflations, and 2 times the bank stole the money of the people in Argentina in my lifespan. So imagine in the whole
Right.
story of the country. So I think that stablecoins is a good way to put some money to do transfer, but usually I suggest, even though I say it's not financial advice, but I recommend to, if you are gonna save, you need different time expectations. If you're gonna save for your retirement, you do Bitcoin for sure. If you're gonna have some spare money that you don't want to lose the value immediately and you need it to pay or to send or to transfer, use stable coins, at least in Argentina or countries with a huge amount of inflation. And then if you want to make money or do some investment, you can go to the Bitcoin treasury companies and put some money on their stocks. But this is the differentiation of each instrument that we have. And you said that you don't talk about politics and you are not a finance guy. You're a developer. So from your developer perspective, what is the current state of Lightning adoption for commerce, and what innovations are you most excited about?
Huh, awesome question. All right, so I am quite bullish on the Lightning Network and Bitcoin payments. I think every year the technology improves, and there's been a lot of work on. So when the Lightning Network started, right, we had a lot of problems with complexity. So especially from a developer's point of view with complexity, like, oh my gosh, when we were starting in this, trying to integrate Lightning payments was it's a real mission, right? And every year that becomes less and less. It becomes more developer friendly to integrate Lightning Network payments, and the network becomes more reliable, right? So the 2 main issues I saw with like bulk volume Lightning payments were reliability and in complexity. And every year it gets more reliable and less complex. And so I'm really bullish on the future of the Lightning Network and a lot of complementary technologies. So to answer the question of like where I think the Lightning Network still needs work and where we're going to see development in the in the coming years is so one of the most popular new use cases for Bitcoin is to send Bitcoin rewards, right? Like if you look at Nostr or you look at Stacker News or you look at there's a bunch of like credit card reward programs and stuff like that. Can't remember the names of all of them off the top of my head, but sending people tiny amounts of Bitcoin, whether it's 10 Satoshis, 100 Satoshis, like tiny little tips or rewards. And that's still really hard to do with non-custodial Lightning Lightning, right? Which is kind of like the original vision for Bitcoin and these sort of decentralized systems overall, right? But I think we're seeing some really cool innovations with things like eCash. So I don't know if you've ever heard of things like Cashew or Fedimint, but basically like Bitcoin adjacent technologies that are helping solve what's like I think collectively known as this like last mile problem in Bitcoin, where we have like for sending somebody a significant payment from Hong Kong to Argentina, then we have the Bitcoin on-chain network, right? If it's a little bit of spending cash and $100, something like that, money for groceries, you have the Lightning Network, it works awesome. And then for these tiny little micro payments or for people who are just starting up wallets, we have this thing called like the Bitcoin last mile problem. Like, how are we going to solve the little, you know, um not even cup of coffee problems, but like a percent of a cup of a coffee, or a cup of coffee in a very economically underdeveloped place. And I think that that's where we're going to see this development. It's going to be on the one side from like small little micro payments and rewards payments to like incentivize app use and stuff like that. But then also from like, I mean, there's a huge explosion happening in technology right now with AI agents, right? And using internet native money and using these like tiny little fractions of a payment, just like I think there's going to be like a push to these like small micropayments from both of those things, and that's what's going to push the Lightning Network in the coming months and years.
And do you think let's take a look at the future? I'm not talking about in the next 5 years, probably in the next 20 years, when
All right.
Bitcoin is really, for me, is going to be the foundation of the financial system. You see a future in 20 years where everything is going to be with Bitcoin. We only will be using Lightning Network for daily payments, for do our groceries, and or you're going to see something more hybrid with Bitcoin as a store of value, and then we're going to use another payment solutions backed in stable coins or either other networks like Solana, for example.
So, hey, that's an awesome question. And like in the long-term time frame, I think you're right. Things are trending towards Bitcoin, you know. Uh so like for example, a few minutes ago you mentioned the USA president and the government. It seems like they're talking about Bitcoin and be I mean, that's crazy, right? Imagine
Well,
having said that like 5 years ago or 10, yeah, even
in
5 years
fact,
ago.
eh, in fact, 2 years ago, in fact, the Bitcoin conference in Hong Kong, the closing was made by Eric Trump.
Right. So
So
that's
Eric
crazy.
Trump
That's
was,
like the
yeah,
twilight zone,
yes,
This is
yes,
so I mean, if things continue down that path, and so like the worst case scenario is something happens to the USA dollar and there's like a some kind of like global financial crisis around that, because it is right now kind of like the gears that make the businesses of the world work, right? So some kind of disastrous scenario there, yes, would push Bitcoin a lot, right? Because
mhm,
I mean, then we might really be seeing like, people demanding to be paid in Bitcoin and only using Bitcoin for payments. But, hopefully, because that would not be a very happy future. I mean, we might get to a better place faster, but in the meantime, it would be quite difficult for most people and businesses. I think that it's going to just slowly take its part as like a great way to save and a great way to make payments, and as part of like a kind of a more multi-centered set of currencies where the US dollar is just one of maybe, four or five things. And so is Bitcoin.
yes, yes. I think so. I think so. But yeah, it's incredible what you said. That imagine two. Sometimes I laugh because people is super. They say these movements of price. For example, last week Bitcoin went down around 107, 106K US dollar, and people start to fad. People start to go panic, and I said, guys, 2 years ago we didn't have the governments want to ban Bitcoin. Now we have the president of the biggest country of the world talking about Bitcoin. We have the companies, the treasury companies buying Bitcoin without asking the price. No matter Sailor buys Bitcoin, no matter the price. So
Right.
I don't understand the FUD. I don't understand this fear. We more people using Bitcoin, adopting Bitcoin in day to day basis, and of course we have a lot of work to do in the future because we need to onboard 8 billion people to use Bitcoin. But if someone had told me in the middle of 2023 that Bitcoin was going to be now at this stage, though I had no doubt with the price. I thought that 100K was going to be around 2025, 2024 for sure. I have no doubt in the price. But if someone had told me that the governments were going to be speaking about Bitcoin, now there are a lot of companies fighting to buy more Bitcoins. The big money from Wall Street is interested in Bitcoin. This is because we won. And if someone told me 2 years ago, for me it was going to be, okay, I would believe that the price was going to be high, but not all this environment created uh, around Bitcoin. And do you think that this environment, because some maxis, I don't know if you are a maxi or not. I always say that I'm a maxi, but I'm not crazy and I accept some things. Do you think that this new environment with treasury companies and governments are a little bit out? Sorry, sorry, a little bit out of the Bitcoin ethos that Satoshi believed at the beginning, or are good for the Bitcoin environment?
That's a good question. So I think that a lot of the treasury companies, a lot of the treasury companies likely are making these moves because they are quite like heavy Bitcoiners, right? Which means like they do believe in the foundational principles of Bitcoin that, you know, money should be decentralized, that we should have peer to peer cash for the internet, um, that it should be uncensorable, right? So I think there's a lot of these companies that would be really quite aligned with that, right? But on the other hand, like this is quite like the what do you call it? It's like the hype of the moment, which means you're going to get people who are just like any other crypto hype or whatever. It's just you're going to get people who are just in this. They do a big show, and they say the right things, but what they're doing is just trying to make money and publicity. So I think that's definitely an element. But the Bitcoin treasury idea is, I think, is pretty cool, right? Like we've specialized in Bitcoin for business for a long time now, like over 10 years. And like this is like it's not the most novel idea. This is like what most of the companies that we've worked with are doing. They believe in Bitcoin, they save Bitcoin, they want to use their Bitcoin as like a well, I think this is coming to the Bitcoin treasury companies. They're going to like see that Bitcoin, use it to make payments, accept it as a form of payment because buying Bitcoin or buying stock in a treasury company, like I mean, you could just accept Bitcoin. Your business will get the Bitcoin and you can save that.
Yeah, of
It's like
course.
it's so you know, I think it is cool to see some of these ideas that were crazy 10 years ago, like huge companies are talking about them, I mean, yeah. So I think there's a lot of innovation that's going to happen there, but hopefully a lot of those people's hearts in the right place and pretty cool to see.
Yes, yes. I think that, of course, the treasury companies and all the new finance, the big money coming to Bitcoin, I think that is not the original ethos of Bitcoin. That is bank and bank help the people that was ripped off by the banks in 2008.
Yeah,
Mm. But at the end of the day, the other thing that I always repeat that Bitcoin is permissionless. Anyone can use Bitcoin. And the magic is that everyone who is into Bitcoin play with the same rules. That's the magic. I'm not going to repeat much because I always say it, and probably I'm a little bit, I always say the same that the permissionless factor of Bitcoin is for everyone. And these companies and the governments talking about Bitcoin, what they do is they give Bitcoin, they put Bitcoin mainstream and make more people listen about Bitcoin. And probably a portion of these people go to the rabbit hole and become the new maxis, the new era of maxis for the next year. I'm talking about business accepting Bitcoin, as you told me. We all know about the small grocery shop in the middle of Africa that accept daily payments with Lightning Network. In fact, here in Hong Kong, and on Saturday, I'm going to go there to shoot a video. There is a coffee shop in Central that they accept Bitcoin. In fact, I've been 2 weeks ago and I paid with Lightning. Besides these small initiatives, do you have any real world examples of big companies that accept Bitcoin as a payment and are successful?
sure. I think well, yeah, I think the probably one of the most fun and recent examples is probably Steak and Shake, but then there's what's the name? Pick and Pay in South Africa, right? They've just expanded so like you can pay with Bitcoin all over their grocery stores. In I think it's Kenya, there's an integration with like the local payment program where like literally anybody can pay with Bitcoin anywhere, because it's kind of like I don't know what they use in Hong Kong, but here in Puerto Rico, a lot of people will use like it's called ATH, and here it's called ATH. It's like the banking system. It's like a little app. Everybody's got their QR code. Everybody sends each other stuff. Like in Kenya, they've integrated that app with Bitcoin payments. So like literally you can just pay with Bitcoin anywhere. It's super cool. Like I wish that would happen here. It'd be nice if that would happen here. But so oh, and then we had this like again recent news like Spar supermarkets in Switzerland rolling out nationwide Bitcoin payments. Um, we had Electra in Mexico, um, nationwide Bitcoin payments. Um, yeah, so I I think it has been successful. Oh my gosh, in El Salvador, right? Sorry, it seems like so long ago that like you don't even think on it anymore. But like, I mean, that was a massive wave of adoption in El Salvador. Like, you could literally go to Walmart. I don't know if that's big in Hong Kong, but here in Puerto Rico, in Mexico, in El Salvador, like Walmart is in the USA. Walmart is like where you go for everything, and you can pay in Bitcoin. That's yeah.
No, here in Hong Kong, this is not very well spread. Again, I only know about this coffee shop that I've been 2 weeks ago because I met the CEO of one of these Bitcoin treasury companies, and I took him around to show around Hong Kong and record a podcast episode while walking around Hong Kong. It was funny. It's in the YouTube channel. And there was this shop, and we went to this shop on the central market, and I paid the coffee with Bitcoin. So that was, but this is the only one. For me, it's funny, but again, of course, in 4 or 5 years, probably with the payment that I paid, the coffee for me, a tea for him, and a water for his son, in 5 years, I will pay probably a dinner for 20 people in a fancy restaurant. So, but
Right.
again, it's good to pay and to circulate and to show also this. For me, it's more to show the people that my goal is to orange pill, to talk to people who to this podcast and all the content that I create, to reach people that is not into Bitcoin, because I don't have to convince you that Bitcoin is better and how to use Bitcoin and what is Bitcoin. But I like to do this to show my friends and family that they are not Bitcoiners and they still believe that Bitcoin is something only to buy drugs, that I can go and pay for a coffee using Bitcoin. There is another example that one guy in Hong Kong uses, that he teaches the kids in the school. He has a Bitcoin club in the school, at school, and he calls a friend in Canada, and he pays for the friend go to the coffee shop, and he pays for his friend's coffee using Bitcoin from Hong Kong to Canada. It's amazing. And that's the good examples that we can give in order to, again, make people, let people know that Bitcoin is not for drug dealers or for the mafia, that you can use to pay a coffee, that you can use to save and multiplicate your money and get a decent retirement at the end of your life. So I think that there is a lot of cultural battle that we need to give with Bitcoin. But again, we are winning. And talking about the payments and receiving payments with Bitcoin, what are the biggest challenges, both in the technical side and also in the the regulatory side? Because, for example, I remember that there was an app for Noster. I use Noster. There was an app called Damus that is one of the clients, and there was an update, and I think that Apple Store, they forced not to use apps because there was payment and I don't know what. Are there many regulations from the governments or also from these big corporations to stop the spread of Bitcoin payment?
Yeah, definitely. So from the technology side, I think it's always improving. And it's from the technology side, I think it's just a little bit of kind of like fear from the like trying to learn something new, right? Like learning Bitcoin is still learning something new. Once you get over that, I think accepting Bitcoin payments at your business can be quite straightforward, and which is pretty cool. Like you say, like why would you want to spend Bitcoin? Like for example, we accept Bitcoin at our business, so if somebody wants to build a website, they can pay it in Bitcoin, and that means that like we have that Bitcoin in the business. So when we want to pay for like our hosting server, we use Luna Node because with Luna Node you can pay in Bitcoin, right? So it's like a circle, right? And I know we do kind of like niche software development, but like we have this little circle of suppliers that take Bitcoin, and we take Bitcoin, and it makes like one thing. And we actually, interestingly, I've done these numbers 100 times. We almost always, even with the volatility of Bitcoin taken into account, we almost always save money by accepting and spending Bitcoin versus payment processing. So it's pretty crazy. It doesn't work out like that every month, but over the long run, it certainly does. All right. And then, so from the technology side, I think, things are there. There's still, you know, setup to do, just like any website. If you wanted to integrate Stripe, it's still a little bit of setup, still a little bit of learning. And that's exactly the same with Bitcoin. Now, from the regulatory side, that's where things can really hurt, right? Like, so for example, Google recently just started just announced that they're going to start banning custodial wallets on the Play Store. And although that sounds like, I mean, as Bitcoiners, we want self custody and we want that to be the only thing. Like, I wouldn't say that's the only type of Bitcoin wallet anybody should ever have. And there's a lot of innovations around custodial type of wallets for things like, for example, for eCash, where like, okay, that's a custodial system, but it's pretty cool that it's a blinded payment. They can't spy on you. You can spend offline. I mean, we live in Puerto Rico. There's hurricanes. If you want to see like a disaster, man, wait till there's a hurricane here. And if you don't have cash, like literal paper cash, you can't buy gasoline, you can't buy groceries. Anyway, there's a lot of innovation happening there, and there is a lot of regulations that are constantly kind of like stifling that. There's tax issues here in Puerto Rico and the USA where like when you buy it, you have to calculate the cost where you sold it, and that's like a capital gain. That's like a capital gain, and that's like so there's definitely regulatory issues is well, like both from like kind of like these big corporations that are either being over conservative or kind of like, I sometimes suspect like some companies that have their own payments like Apple, they're deliberately doing this to use Apple Pay because they want to make money off Apple Pay, right? Like nothing bad on them, that's their business, they can do that, but yeah, anyway.
Yeah, that's the one. And I think that these kind of methods like Apple Pay and all these QR code payments that are based on fiat are preventing people to see Bitcoin Lightning Network as a use case. Because if I try to explain to a friend, use the Lightning Network, and they say, yeah, but I can use Apple Pay. In fact, I use Apple Pay. The other day, it was so funny because the other day I lost my phone and I went to the shop, the Apple shop, to buy a new phone. And the funny thing is that I didn't know how to pay because my cards were inside the Apple Pay. So I need to come back to home, pick up my physical credit cards, and pay with the physical credit card, even though I'm a Bitcoiner. So that's the thing. But people say, but it's the same. It's the same. No, it's not the same, and you need to explain. But they look like you are a conspiracy theorist. Let's dive to the last part of the conversation, and it's about the future of Bitcoin commerce. I think there is a long way to go. And what does the Bitcoin commerce landscape look like in 5 years? Will look like in
Awesome.
5 years?
Well, I think in 5 years we're going to see a lot of these. There's going to be some interesting stuff, I reckon. There's So like right now we've got companies that are accumulating Bitcoin, I think largely through custodians, right? Hopefully we see a lot of those companies doing their own custody, right? And not relying on large central custodians, because I mean, talk about 5-year outlooks, like that's a big risk we've seen that. You sounds like you've been in this a long time, right? Long enough to remember Lunaterra and all the crypto winter stuff. We see big centralization risks, so I think that's in the 5-year time span. Hopefully people are wise enough to understand that, like, these centralized honeypots are a danger, right? And start self-custodying. That's the happy future. When they start self-custodying, I think it's going to make a lot of sense for them to start looking at, like, how to earn native Bitcoin yield on those treasuries. And I think one of the interesting answers, which just writing about for our newsletter now, is from a company in Liquid from Canada, where they're using that liquidity, they're using that capital to fund their Lightning node that earns payments, right? For it earns money for routing payments, so they earn native Bitcoin on their own treasury, right? And then I think, like, just keep looking forward into what Erik's crazy idea of what the future looks like, right? Once you have those two things in place, like, you literally have your own payment network, right? Like, so I think companies will be facilitating a lot of their own payments. And there's nothing, either, like, on the one hand simpler, but on the other hand scarier and more, like, technologically advanced than doing this. But I think it is in the future. Like, it's natural that these companies would evolve that way. Hopefully they evolve that way because they see the risk of centralization and not because they get burned by the risk of centralization. But I think that's what we'll see.
Excellent, excellent. And what advice for builders and business you can give in order to beat BTC payments?
Okay, I think, my advice is that if you are a Bitcoiner in some capacity, you should find a way to accept Bitcoin, through your business. I think it just makes all kinds of sense, right? There's no better way to earn Bitcoin. There's no better way to get Bitcoin than to earn it, right? So, so I think that's, like, it's kind of like, I don't know, why not? We save money on payment processing fees every month by accepting Bitcoin, and we earn Bitcoin. So this is my advice, right? Like, I think it's likely going to be a small percent of the payments that you get, but you'll be earning Bitcoin. You'll get KYC free decentralized Bitcoin.
And it's not only you save processing fees. First of all, you receive real money, not
There
an
you go.
IOU. It's not an IOU. You receive real money. Second, you save in fees. And third, if you can keep this Bitcoin for at least 5 years, you're gonna have not much more money, much more purchase power than today. Probably if you sell, let's paraphrase the Jordan Belfort, if you sell this pen and someone pays to me in Bitcoin today, probably in 5 years, first of all, if I want to sell you this pen and you are in Puerto Rico and I'm in Hong Kong, you cannot pay because it's impossible to send a payment for this pen. But for Bitcoin, you can send the payment. And also, if I can stay with this Bitcoin for 5 years, in next 5 years, I will be able to buy probably 20 pen or 100 pen. So that's the magic of Bitcoin. And to close the conversation, I have two questions. That one is, as you are working with payment and sending payment through Lightning, if you could zap a Lightning payment to any historical figure of the history of human history, who would it be and why?
All right. Wow, that's a cool question. So who would I zap? So I think I would zap this idea, and I think it was by, like, a early Christian saint, and he says, it's just like this idea that's taken my mind over the past, like, few months since I've heard it. And he says, all truth is God's truth, right? And I think I
Mhm.
would zap that idea, right? Because I don't know about you, but for me, I always, like, something happens and I say, this reality, and reality stinks and stuff like that. And it's like, but it doesn't, right? All things that happen, all truth, whether it's convenient for you or not, is God's truth, and I think that's an awesome idea. I would zap that person
Excellent, excellent,
in a microsecond.
excellent. The last question is the same question that I do. In fact, the previous last question is, how do you see the future of Bitcoin? But we talk a lot about the future. The last question is, if you had the chance to sit down with Satoshi Nakamoto to have a coffee, what could you ask or say to him, to her, or to them? Because we don't know if it's a man, a woman, or a group of people.
Right. Okay. So if I could sit down with Satoshi Nakamoto and ask them, all right, all right. So I would want to know what inspired them to do this, right? So like I know, the 2007 banks, what's the in the Genesis block, the 2007 banks
2008,
2008.
the financial crisis that then came to the bailout of the banks. So yes,
But like, so I'd imagine the answer might be something along those lines, but I'd really want to hear it from them themselves. Like, why, what inspired you to do this? And that's what I want to know.
I think that was not that. I think that this was the catalyst that was like the catalyst of releasing Bitcoin. But I think that there are a lot of philosophical, and as I was telling in at the beginning when we were talking about this guy that was killed today or yesterday for Americans, I think that the world, since there is a website called what the fuck, what the WTF happened in 1971. And if
Okay.
you see, this website, all the indicators of society, of economics, of health are declining in a, for example, like the diabetes go like this and then start like this. Obesity go like this, then go like this. Uh, and that's why when we left some money, when we abandoned the gold standard and some money. So I think that the catalyst was the crisis of 2008, but for me, Bitcoin is the tool that we have to fix the humanity. We have to live in a better world. We have to grow as a society and make this world a better place and a better place for everyone to live and enjoy the lives. But again, as I always say, we first need to pay the proof of work. That's the magic of Bitcoin. So, Erik, anything else you want to add and how people can contact you?
Sure. The thing I want to add is to thank you and to anybody listening for this opportunity, because this was really fun. This was a good talk, and love talking everything Bitcoin for business. All this stuff is so cool and fun to talk about to somebody who's aligned. Love to hear your origin story. I think, mine was actually quite similar. It was this experience of trying to send money to our friends in Venezuela, where like this just thing started to click for me. And okay, so man, just thank you and to the listeners for this fun talk. And yeah, so you can contact me by email, Erik at Velas Commerce. We also have a Twitter at Velas Commerce, website velascommerce.com, like literally anywhere. Erik Alvarez, Velas Commerce. Yeah, reach out
And
and
you also have a newsletter.
oh yeah, yeah, oh yes, thank you. So we have a newsletter. It's called the Bitcoin Commerce Newsletter. You can subscribe to it on Substack, and it's about every 2 weeks. You get Bitcoin Commerce news, so like companies accepting Bitcoin, some of these treasury strategy ideas, just news from around the world in Bitcoin commerce.
Amazing, amazing. Okay, thank you very much for your time. Again, the pleasure is mine. And as I said, like the only asset people we cannot recover is time, because even if we lost Bitcoin, of course we cannot recover, but we can work and get the Bitcoin back. But time we cannot get back. And for me, someone who gives me 1 hour, 1 hour 10, 1 hour and a half of their time to be with me talking about Bitcoin for me and my audience is an amazing gift. And again, appreciate your time and thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
And thank you very much to everyone who is on the other side. If you like the episode, please give us a like, share, and subscribe to our social media, our X, the Bitcoin double underscore, our new YouTube channel, Libertarian BTC, our YouTube channel in Spanish, Libertarian BTC ESP, our Instagram, the Bitcoin Libertarian, our Patreon, the Bitcoin Libertarian, and I forget something that is, yes, something I forget, but no problem. Our newsletter is crocsroad.co. Yeah, I forget some social media, but no problem. Our Rumble, the Bitcoin Libertarian. But anyways, you're going to find everything in our X. Share this episode with the people you love. Share this episode with the people you hate, because we must reach 8 billion people and bring them to Bitcoin. See you in the next episode of our podcast. Stay humble, stack sats, and remember, we are all Satoshi.